Good morning, Chair Wygant, members of the board, all the rest of you assembled here. I am Ryan Ronco, your Clerk-Recorder-Registrar of Voters. With me is Lisa Kramer, your Assistant County Clerk, Philip Chantry, the Elections Manager for Placer County, and online Stephen I, who is my Assistant Recorder-Registrar of Voters. We're happy to be able to answer some questions here today, but I am here before you with two requested actions. One is to receive from me the Certificate of Election Results and official final results for the September 14th, 2021 California Gubernatorial Recall Election, and to declare the results of the measure for the Truckee Fire Protection District, which consolidated its local measure with the recall. And two, allow me to speak on the processes we employ for conducting elections here in Placer County for the September 14th recall election, and also generally for every election. I only have 15 minutes, and the good Lord knows I can talk a long time. So I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as we can. First off, let me hit some highlights on the September 14th recall election. Placer County had 277,363 active registered voters at the time of the recall election. That made us the 18th largest elections jurisdiction in California. We had 201,661 voters participate, which at 72.7% turnout was the sixth highest turnout in the state of California. And the five counties ahead of us totaled together, as far as their voter registration goes, doesn't even equal Placer County. So we were certainly by far the largest county with the largest turnout. As you all know, Placer County always enjoys high voter turnout, and we are routinely 10 to 15 points above the statewide average for any election turnout. For this election, it was no different. Our turnout percentage was over 14 points higher than the state's turnout of 58.5%. In Placer County, 57.4% of the voters voted yes to recall the governor, and 42.6% of the voters voted no. As you know, ultimately the recall failed statewide. For Truckee Fire Protection District's Measure T, a parcel tax requiring 2/3 approval of the voters voting on the measure, 82.6% of voters voted yes, and 17.3% of the voters voted no, which means that the measure passed. As a traditional polling place county, we had 129 assigned polling places distributed throughout the county for the recall. We also provided a vote-by-mail ballot to every voter in accordance with state law. The use of vote by mail was very popular with our voters. Of the 201,661 voters who voted, 191,379 used a vote by mail ballot to cast their vote. Only 10,282 voters, or just over 5% of our voters, used a polling place ballot, which was, for me, the most surprising statistic of the recall election, the small number of voters who voted a traditional polling place ballot at the polls. For those who used a vote-by-mail ballot, 48% were returned through the mail by the post office, 43% were dropped off at a drop box and picked up by my staff, and 9% were either hand-delivered to a polling place open on election day or directly to my office. So let me switch gears slightly to talk about the integrity of our election process here in Placer County. I'm very proud of the systems that we employ to ensure that our elections are secure, transparent, accurate, and accessible to those who want to come in and observe. And first and foremost, let me be clear, when it comes to conducting an election, all processes may be observed by the public, whether that be pre-election voting machine programming and testing, vote-by-mail ballot signature verification, poll worker training, election day and night activities, including ballot counting, or post-election auditing. All of it is public viewable. I believe nearly all of you on the board at one time or another have come in to see our operations in action, so you know from experience how open and transparent we are. So do the 150 or so people who came in during the November presidential general election, or the roughly 50 people who took advantage of coming into the office during the recall election that we just had to observe our process and ask questions. And I would say to those in the public who think that that statement might be untrue or self-serving, don't just take it from me. Call your local Republican Party here in Placer County, call the local Placer County Democratic Party, talk to officials from the Election Integrity Project California, and ask them how open and accessible we are, and I'm confident they will tell you good things about our honesty, integrity, and transparency. Second, yes, we do use products from Dominion voting systems to conduct our elections in Placer County. Some people hate to hear that because they have heard that it's a compromised voting system. However, assuming for a second that all of the terrible things that we've heard about the Dominion voting system is true, here's a sample of what we do to inoculate ourselves from any potential meddling by Dominion or, quite frankly, anybody else in Placer County's elections. We don't use Dominion staff or any outside subcontractors to create our official ballots. That is done in-house with Placer County election staff. We don't use Dominion staff or outside subcontractors to perform pre- or post-election system testing. That is all done in-house with Placer County Elections IT staff. We don't use Dominion staff or outside subcontractors to count our official ballots. That is all done in-house with Placer County Elections IT staff. We don't use Dominion staff or outside subcontractors to check voter signatures, to log in valid ballots, or to determine ballot eligibility. That is all done in-house with Placer County Elections staff. The machines that count ballots are not connected to the internet, so they can't be hacked from the outside. We do not send ballot totals to the cloud. We host our own ballot counting servers in our secured computer room. Those servers are not managed by Dominion or by outside subcontractors. We maintain our own servers and load our elections onto them with our own Placer County Elections IT staff. Our facility, including our computer room, is monitored by cameras 24/7, and those images are kept for 22 months, just like all election material, so we can show who had access to our ballot counting software in our ballot counting room during an election. And finally, all of Placer County's ballots, every single one of them, are cast on paper. They are not cast electronically, so they're easily recountable. The Dominion product is a tool, and all election software and hardware vendors are going to come under some scrutiny at some point in time. I know this from experience because it happened back in 2005, another close presidential election, where many California counties, including Placer, were using an elections equipment vendor known as Diebold, and some of the public were convinced that that system was untrustworthy. However, back then it was generally liberal voters who were angry about the voting machines, and today it's generally conservatives that are having trust issues with our voting system. The bottom line is this: our vendor does not run our elections, we do. Next, I'd like I know people who are concerned about the integrity of voting by mail. If I had it my way, we would be seeing predominant method of voting being election day at a polling place in neighborhoods like it was not too many years ago. The voting results would be reported faster, and there would be fewer ballots to count after election day if we had this. However, those days are gone, regrettably. Even before the new law granting vote by mail for everyone, Placer County was already at 81% of our voters signed up as permanent vote-by-mail voters. And that percentage was growing higher every year. So there was already a high degree of use, and dare I say trust, in the vote-by-mail system. However, trust but verify, I've once heard, right? So what do we do to ensure election integrity in universal vote-by-mail? First, we only send ballots to active registered voters. Ballots are not sent to inactive voters. They're not sent to canceled voters. They're not sent to every address in Placer County. Ballots are only mailed to active registered voters. Also, we use the same protections against fraud for an unrequested vote-by-mail ballot as we do for a requested vote-by-mail ballot. That includes signature verification on all vote-by-mail ballots, and that's not a percentage, that's not a random sample, that's not, we're gonna check the signature because that person never voted in Placer County before. It is every envelope, every voter, every election, we're checking those signatures. And I think people are fascinated to find that out because that means human eyes had to look at over 191,000 ballot envelope signatures for the September recall, and nearly 240,000 ballot signatures for the November general election. If the first pair of eyes don't like the signature on the envelope, they're given to another to verify. If those two people don't like the signature, then it's placed in a tray for upper management to review. Ultimately, all rejected signatures are reviewed by me because if the ballot's going to go uncounted, I want the responsibility of rejecting those signatures to be on my shoulders and not on some staffer. Is the system foolproof? No, of course not. Certainly anyone with intent to commit vote fraud and who has access to another person's signature can take the time to learn to forge that signature. However, all of my permanent staff have gone through signature verification training from a retired FBI forensic document examiner. Therefore, the likelihood of a random stranger coming across another person's ballot, whether they requested that ballot or not, and signing it so that it's accepted by my signature verification team is extremely unlikely. In the most common type of vote fraud here in Placer County that we see is members of the same family voting for others in the household. Over the 191,000 vote-by-mail ballots returned in the recall election, 714 of them, so less than one half of 1%, were ultimately not counted because of a signature mismatch. Those ballots, or those went uncounted after attempts to reach the voter by mail and, when possible, by telephone and by email. On the occasion we talked to some of these voters, they told us that they weren't interested in correcting the problem because it was after the election and they would say, my candidate won or my candidate lost. In the last 6 years that the law has required us to reach out to voters whose ballots are not going to be counted, and for the 20+ years that Placer County did this before the law required it, we have had 3 voters tell us that they did not cast their ballots as we received them. That's probably well over 100,000 letters, telephone calls, and emails to voters. And with all of those contacts, if there was a fraud problem in Placer County, one would think we would have a much higher number of voters letting us know that their ballot was compromised. I hope these figures provide some measure of comfort to those concerned about vote-by-mail fraud. Finally, in order to ensure that ballot counting can be trusted, Placer County conducts a very rigorous post-election audit process. This process is set forth in California law. It includes hand counting in public a percentage of ballots drawn at random to verify that the computers we programmed to count ballots counted them accurately. In the November 2020 presidential general election, we hand counted over 26% of the ballots cast in the election. That was over 64,000 ballots that we counted by hand, and the totals matched the election day count exactly. In the September recall election, because we had the time, we audited every single precinct ballot counting machine, all 129 of them, and the hand counts from the hand counts matched the election day count exactly. So again, even if our voting system vendor or a foreign country or some ingenious hacker penetrated our system and attempted to manipulate our vote count, it would have shown up in the hand count of ballots when the election day totals didn't match the hand count totals. So with that, thank you for allowing me to provide a quick summary of some of the things that we do to protect Placer County elections. I'd also like to thank our poll workers, our temporary staffers, and my permanent staff, who are the first, second, and third lines of defense in election integrity matters. Without them, we cannot do what we do at such a high level. Finally, it's an honor to be entrusted with the responsibility, by the voters. I appreciate this invitation to speak today, and I'd love to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
You bet.
Great presentation, very comprehensive, and I'll just kick it off by saying thanks for being willing to come down here. We have received some emails, not very many, but general concerns, I think, about voting integrity. So, and as you know well, I met with you and Lisa and your team after the last fall election cycle, not because I was concerned at all about the work that you're doing. You and I have worked together for many years. But I just wanted to have a more thorough understanding of how the system worked, because frankly, when you watch some of the election returns, if you're a junkie in the business like we are, there are some things that raise questions. There are a lot of articles that were written, some in reputable journalism, caused me to just have a more thorough understanding of your work. And I'll just finish by saying that I'm thankful that elections are run by counties, because there are over something like 3,800 counties across the country, so it would be harder for a one-size-fits-all type of manipulation of that system. You are elected, which also I think is reassuring. But again, with that, just thanks for coming, and I'll open it up to my colleagues for any other questions or comments they might have. But Jim?
Yeah, well, thanks, Ryan. Very good report. I have full confidence in your ability to provide a safe and secure election. As you know, I stop by every election night and watch how you process everything. And I know your hands were full on this recall election because there are several people there that were watching every move you made. But you and your staff handled it really well. So thank you for this update.
Thank you, and thank you for always being there for coming every election night. We appreciate it. Wouldn't be the same without you.
Cindy?
I wanted to add my thanks and gratitude to both of you and to your whole team and all the volunteers. I mean, it's pretty amazing the numbers of our constituents who come out and volunteer and help at the polls and take this very, very seriously. And they think the world of your staff and the training they go through and the support they get. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address this item? Someone on Zoom, apparently.
Kathleen, go ahead and unmute your mic and give your comments.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors and Mr. Ronco. Thank you very much for this excellent presentation. I want to comment as a member of the public who has in the past been an inspector and a judge at a local precinct, that the staff here in Placer County do an excellent job of training and monitoring and assisting on election day, as well as are very transparent and open. I receive letters frequently advising me of my opportunity to come in and see what is happening transparently on the count and on the election process here in Placer. So I really appreciate the very full and complete report that was given by our election officials. And I want to congratulate the community on its very high participation rate, which is really important in our democracy. So again, just as a member of the public, I wanted to confirm exactly what has been said and your opinions of how well our elections are run. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I see no others.
No others? So I'll just finish by giving a shout out too for the work that the Elections Office has done with regards to encouraging voter turnout. We do extraordinarily well, and a little reminiscing about Jim Williams' election in the primary. This is all about every vote does in fact count. Jim was moving between second, third, and fourth place all night long to make the runoff in the general as a supervisorial candidate. At the end of the election night, I think he was in third place. So there was a recount, and Jim edged into second place by 7 votes, I recall.
He was 3, wasn't it?
3?
Yeah.
There you go. So, and then Jim went on to win the seat in the general. So every vote, in fact, does count, and in Placer County, those votes are counted accurately. So again, thank you.
Thank you all.
Robert,
We really do appreciate it.
Robert,
Thank you.
can I make a question?
Sure.
I just wanted to tell you, Ryan, thank you, because when we were bombarded with a lot of emails of people concerned about voter integrity in Placer County, that you opened the doors and invited them in to come and check out the system and, you know, and assure them that we don't have a problem with voter integrity. And so I really appreciate your coming in and rescuing the day for all of us from all of those being bombarded with all the folks that are concerned.
You bet. And thank you so much for letting us know about that so that we could be able to let people know. And if anybody takes one takeaway from this whole presentation, and I didn't mean for it to go so long, but one takeaway is we are open and people can come in and just embed themselves in what we do so that they can be able to see the process for themselves. So thank you for that.
Thank you.